Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Between Here and There podcast with Kathy and Steve. We'd like to bring some good vibrations into the room, create a sacred space. It's 432 hertz, some good juju's being brought in, but we don't really need that because we have Tina Marie Bertoli,
Yay, Tina!
Kundalini Yoga Instructor, sound and energy healer, breathwork facilitator, beautiful love and light. And we welcome her right now. Hi, Tina.
Hi.
You're a sight for sore eyes. It's so great to see you.
So grateful to be here. Love you both.
We love you, and we miss you so much. Tina is a spiritualist and a yoga teacher, and she was at one of our favorite yoga studios for quite some time, and we used to look forward every Saturday to go and see you. She had a combination, not only the love and light, but she also brought a philosophy, a way of understanding life to the practice, and really enjoyed it. And it's still a part of our everyday life. So I want to begin by offering my most humblest gratitude towards you. Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness. I am just so grateful to be here to connect with you. I miss those days. I really miss them.
Yes. We had a beautiful community on Long Island, Kundalini Yoga, and we had heard about Tina for so long, but we had a studio right near us. It was 10 minutes away in Northport. So to travel that 25 minutes to Smithtown, it was like, well, I hear that this woman is special, but we're not going to go. But then someone at the studio said, you need to experience a Tina class. Oh. And I was like, why? They just go and you'll see. So Steve and I went to the Family Tree studio where you were that Saturday morning. And the minute we walked in, there was that energy in the space, because not only did you bring this beautiful energy, but you brought together a community. I mean, the class was always packed.
Right. Well, you both helped with that too. I mean, your presence coming in and bringing people in. So, we really built the community together, and
it was amazing. It was so amazing. And it's just so hard that things change, but you know what? That's what life is. It's one challenge, one beautiful experience after the next. So
and I just want to mention one other thing. And as soon as I walked into that yoga studio called Family Tree, it's no longer, after COVID, they had to go out of business and seek other avenues in life. But I met a young lady who lived on my block. We were the deepest of friends till we were about 12 years old, and she moved away. So that was Kim, and it was such a pleasure. Right. And that beautiful energy. It was just something out of, just everything fit together wonderfully. But as far as spirituality in your life, how did you come about it? Is it just something? Was it through yoga? Or was it some life event? Can you talk about your evolution from being a normie into being a spiritualist?
Yeah, it's interesting because some of my real early memories as a little girl, I would talk to Jesus. I would also, my mom told me I had imaginary friends, and it's been kind of a later in life looking back and in dreams and in meditations, seeing that these imaginary friends were my angels. People would always shout Michael around me and ask me if I had a brother Michael, or it would, like, that name always came up. Again, didn't know what that meant till, later in life. But I learned early on that by talking about any of that, it proved to be very painful, because I was kind of laughed at, made fun of, rejected, humiliated. And I just, closed it all inside, always had a faith and kind of studied it and was always spiritual, but didn't really, speak in those terms for a long time, and then became an actress. So then I was playing roles, right? Like to be something other than, myself. And it took some real soul searching and actually a deep depression. I moved out to Los Angeles and was just trying to find myself and was trying to make it in the acting world, even though it didn't fit. But I didn't know, who am I if I'm not an actress? And so that kind, because I just from early as a kid, I was in plays, and then I went to an acting school in Manhattan. So it was always, role after role after role. And then I get to LA and I'm like, I don't even know if I love this. I don't even know if this is my passion. And that sent me into studying the Eastern religions. It brought me to, well, I shouldn't say it brought me to, as I believe God, fate would come in, people in my life invited me to yoga classes, to meditation. I found myself in a group of healers, and they were meditating every week and they invited me. So it was like, once I started to really open up and feel again, it was like pieces of the puzzle coming back together. And in this particular meditation group, it's so fascinating how life works. I never saw anything that they saw at the time, but I felt the energy. And they would talk about all these angels and ascended masters. And it took me some time of realizing, those were who I spoke with as a little girl.
Oh.
And so it became like this reunion. And then I started to learn more about everything. And then the rest is kind of history. It was just like, wanting to continue to open. And it's amazing too, when you're on, I should say on the right path, but like when you're in alignment with your soul and what you're here to do, everything just fell into place. I was teaching within a short time. I was building a business and traveling, like it just all clicked.
Tell us about your world travels, because you have gone abroad and studied with some of the most renowned spiritual icons like Doreen Virtue and Steve Noble, and you even attended teacher training with a very popular figure right now, Russell Brand.
Yeah, well, he was, he's great. He used to always sit next to me during Kundalini yoga.
Oh, I'm so surprised.
Yeah, he was great. He wasn't in my teacher training, but he was in class he was in class all the time. But yeah, and then my beginning at a pretty young age was taking Doreen Virtue's angel therapy course. And then within a year, I was on her staff, and then I was traveling, and then I met her son, and then I was traveling more. And so that really helped, one, to connect with a lot of people worldwide, so that then when that chapter of my life ended, I continued then teaching my own stuff with all, contacts, and continued to travel. I think I've been to about 20 different countries, and I miss that too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Tina, when you've mentioned that you've taken acting, and that your presentation in class was extremely natural, is from the heart and the soul, but you also had a certain polish about you, and was extremely engaging. Did you draw upon your acting ability to help you in your presentation and prepping for class?
That's a great question, Steve. I think that I never thought about it, but I do believe that definitely helped. And I think too, because I had to take speech classes and obviously singing and sound, and improv, you name it, because I was in a, extensive program where it was, I was immersed in Manhattan in it. So I do think that that has helped and has carried over, because I'm used to speaking. And then I think the only difference was, rather than playing roles, it was in the moment with whatever the teaching was, to share it. So
At one time, I was an awful public speaker. I know it's kind of hard to believe now, but I tended to stutter and stammer, and I would get very nervous when I would speak before a group. And I got to a point in my life where I had to speak in front of groups almost every night. And what I began to do is I began to pretend that I was John Wayne, and that I spoke with a little bit of his voice, but in my mind, as I almost took on that personality. And all of a sudden, as I could speak very well publicly, because I really wasn't being myself, but I was speaking my words. And that's what was very impactful for me. And that's why I asked you that question.
yeah, I love it. Well, whatever works, right? And it
Yeah.
is kind of easier in a lot of ways if you have a script or if there is a character, because in a way it isn't you, So it's a good tactic to help with speaking for sure.
What is a goddess circle?
Goddess circle. I just talked about this yesterday. Oh yeah, Kathy, I went to the yoga studio and met with Roseanne, and we talked about goddess circles and yoga and workshops. Because I said I miss those goddess circles.
Yeah, me
That's
too.
it's amazing too how, well, what it is really a way for women to come together, because women thousands of years ago, like it's ritual and meeting and just being in community. It was just the way of life, of supporting one another, and we've kind of lost a lot of that. And so I never thought that by just offering it at Family Tree that so many people would come from all towns. And that's another thing that was packed. And I would really just sit in meditation and kind of see what we were going to work with, what the topic was going to be, so that it was appropriate for that particular night. And we would use meditation, really good music, everything from saging and clearing to I would kind of push the limits a little, even though I knew women would be a little uncomfortable, but like to have them maybe come in the center of the circle, and I would be supporting them to be seen, to express their voice, and support them with whatever the theme was. A lot of like self-empowerment, self-worth, releasing shame and guilt, because those are really big things, especially for women. And so it was just amazing to just feel the energy in the room, right, Kathy?
Oh gosh, it was so emotional because there were like 40 women together, and you had this beautiful way of making us look into each other's eyes, even without speaking, and just have this energy connection. And it would be so emotional for some people because they were going through such difficult times. And we would leave the best of friends. It was just amazing with the chanting and the ancient healing music, the bringing Mary into the space all the time.
The angels.
Was it, someone always made a beautiful flower in this mandala in the center. And it just was such a, I don't know, it was like something we all inherently knew was part of our past, because what you had explained is that when we existed a while ago, men would go off to war or to hunt. So the women were left alone. And that's how they communed in this circle and without power. So there'd be like fire and singing because there was no TV and iPhones to occupy the time. So it was just amazing. And every woman that I ever talked about the goddess circle with and I brought, they just loved it. So the circle just grew and grew and grew. And then we even got you to come to our house and do special circles for us. And there's one that we are so grateful with your participation, was a friend of mine who was with child, and there was a very rare genetic defect. And I just intuitively knew, based on my knowledge of you and the womb clearing circles that you would do, that we had to get our best friends together, invite this friend of ours, and have you come. So can you explain that process? Because what you did actually healed this baby.
Wasn't there a 50-50 chance that this baby would come down?
I think it was worse than that. Wasn't it worse?
Yeah, she had a boy. They wanted her to abort the baby. And we were just like, it just didn't make sense to me, because intuitively, this was like her third pregnancy. She had 2 prior miscarriages. And I just felt that this baby kept trying to come in and it was stronger. I just felt that. And when I talked to you about it, you said, absolutely. And you intuitively knew. So you got this together for us. Could you tell us what you learned about womb clearing and the power of the mother to create this healing?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because something would, I shouldn't say something, but like something would always come over me, or through me, I should say, in those circles. Like I would be preparing, I would be, almost like I would call it a mind dump. Like I'd have all this stuff of like ideas, but then I'd have to throw it all out and then show up. And then it was like, once we started that circle, everything could change depending on what I was feeling in the moment by just bringing in the Christ consciousness and letting myself be a vessel. So a lot of it I don't even 100% remember because it was so in the moment.
Mhm.
But when it comes to the womb clearing, I forgot what tribe it is, but I know that I'll probably remember when we get off the call. But it's this kind of way of like women passing it on to others, in where like the womb is not a place to store fear or pain. The womb is a place to create and give birth to life. But over, the thousands and thousands of years that, all the shame and guilt are kind of stirred in there. So the particular thing that we did was based on this tribe. But then, of course, in my particular fashion, it's then, doing it in a unique way that I'm also seeing and intuiting in the moment. And so, of course, I think we brought in Mother Mary, probably Mary Magdalene, because there are two of, who I work with every day. And there is a power of coming together, bringing in that Christ consciousness, and then the mother itself, and I know this from doing the Khalsa way prenatal training through Kundalini, the power of the mother and the baby in the womb, of how she can clear the karma through meditation, through intention. And a lot of the practices are that. So, from different ways of life, knowing that and then intuiting it also. And then us coming together with such love to welcome this little, what's his name, Chase, right? This little.
He's beautiful. And when she went to the doctor after our session, the doctor was shocked.
Oh, yeah. I remember that day.
It's kind of emotional to think about
Yeah.
it. This is such a good friend of ours. And the baby was born healthy. And we called him Little Buddha because when you saw him, there was a light in his eyes.
Oh.
And he's beautiful. I mean, he's terrible too right now.
Yeah,
so we have to clear him again.
They call him Tank now, and he's a very precocious young man, and he's giving Mom a run for her money. That's for sure.
But he's happy. He's just overly energetic,
and so is she.
It was just an amazing experience. The doctor was shocked.
You truly are an angel.
And it's just.
I know Kathy will send me pictures, and every time, like I just sit and stare because it's just like, wow. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, but there is just that, that power of what we're capable of what we can bring through when we believe.
I remember the lady who came to visit us, Kathy, the healer. What was her name?
There's so many.
She read our book. Yeah, Pat Longo. Is that her name? Yeah. She's a wonderful spiritualist and a healer. And she had stopped by. She read our book. She had stopped by, had dinner with us, and she talked about healing. And she told me she doesn't heal anybody. All she does is help them to heal themselves. Your body has such incredible abilities, and she helps them get in touch with that. And I really think that was one of your greatest skills, is that you're able to get people to get in touch with their own Namo Guru Dev Namo, their inner wisdom, and to be able to, and their spirit, to be able to, infinite spirit, to help them heal. I remember after the goddess circles the next day in yoga, all the ladies, they'd be in cloud nine. They would be so excited and feeling that beautiful energy. It really brought a lot to the practice.
Steve was jealous.
I wanted to go.
I know.
What did you do in there? I'm like, I'm not telling you.
You're not telling. How come she can keep a secret about that, but nothing else? I'm kidding. But actually, I want to share something, is that I used to run a women's empowerment group. I founded one, and Kathy And that's how I got to know Kathy, is that I had a young daughter, and her mother was a healer. She was a nurse, and she worked at long nights, and she worked overtime. You know how it could be for nurses. It was very tough for her. And she just didn't have the time to really mentor our daughter, at that age. And I was a guy, and I took her, I did nothing but guy things with her. I didn't know any girl things. I mean, I tried to read Cosmo and be up to date on things, but she would just laugh at me, in a kind way. And so what I did is I started this young women's empower group for young ladies who are in middle school and early high school. And I would bring in different leaders from the community to speak to them, to speak about being their own person, about being able to be in a position where you can make choices in your life yourself. That's one of the greatest things any person can have, is choices in life, and how to be confident, and how not to receive your self-worth from the impressions of others, but it comes from within. And Kathy would bring her Girl Scout troop there all the time. And so whenever I had something, she'd bring everybody down. And so I would see her working with all the kids, and it was very inspiring. And so it was a beautiful thing. But let me segue over to another topic that we want to discuss, because it was very, at the time, it was an earth-shaking event. We all practice this yoga called Kundalini Yoga. It's a spiritual yoga, and a book had come out, and there were some very, very serious allegations against the founder of not the founder, but the gentleman who popularized Kundalini Yoga in the United States. And there were very harsh criticisms, and a lot of them appeared to be, pretty accurate. And it was upsetting to the community. It really devastated us, and it took a while to adjust. And I remember in your class is that we all felt uncomfortable about identifying this person with this beautiful practice. And it took us quite some time to work it out, not only as individuals, but as a community. Can you speak to that? What was going on in your mind, and how you became able to deal with it, and perhaps build upon it?
Yeah, I mean, I was heartbroken. I remember not even knowing whether to show up to class. And then I also had to research and went through everything, not even knowing, okay, if I teach, what does that mean? And do we chant? Do we not? And I think too that I had to go with, especially in the immediate beginning, okay, what am I uncomfortable with? And I just, well, let me just be honest and transparent. And I think I brought it to the group and said, well, maybe we won't do Om Namo Guru, maybe we won't do the opening chant. Maybe we'll just Om. So it was like, we were just together, kind of, tiptoeing through it, because we didn't know that much. And yeah, it's heartbreaking, because you see it a lot in spiritual communities, yoga communities. And so after you get over the initial heartbreak, it's okay. Well, so often I think that we can put people on pedestals and forget that they're human, and never put ourselves on a pedestal, not in an ego way, but in, okay, let me honor like what's here. What do I know to be true? And so it gives us that opportunity, but we have to be able to feel and make peace with it within ourselves first. And so I know it took me a while, but I showed up each time, and I tried to pick classes that I was in another community of this amazing man who was going back to the ancient history of yoga, period. And so
5,000 years.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, this man may have done this, but all right, is he really going to taint it for everyone? And I think it's a very personal decision of what to do. I stopped for a while because that's what felt right. I know some people have never come back. And I know people that get very angry for people that still do it. And it's like, with anything in life, I just feel like it's like, stay in our lane and what feels good for me. And if it doesn't feel good for you, that's fine. I honor that. But I know it's a practice that has helped me through so much. And when I took a break from it, that was really hard. But I moved on to other things to and I think this is actually after the fact. I was still teaching it a little, but then, when everything with COVID started to shut down, even I took a break from it. But I think that because it's something that when you do some of the practice or the meditations or the breath work, you can really, with intention, feel how powerful it is and not have to have it be about the man. Uh, so I think that that's what I've, worked with to get behind it. And through everything I've been through the past 2 years, I really go here to my heart and my body. And this is what never lies. So if it feels right, if it doesn't feel right, that's my go-to, not because somebody said this or someone else said that. Like, I tune in. What does it feel here?
Whatever it feels right. Yes, and you make a very good point, because in the spiritualist community, there are many, many examples of individuals who are ideal, who people look up to them as a spiritualist, and they've taken advantage of people, not only in a sexual way, but also in a labor intensive way. People will work for nothing, or they'll use, and people are afraid to say no because this is this connected spiritualist. And the way I feel that that's one of the most evil things that you can do, is use spirituality in that way. And especially when people are vulnerable. And so that's why it was very, very, because people often go to spiritual communities because they're having, great challenges in life. And I never felt very comfortable with the whole Yogi Bhajan thing. Is that I felt there were a lot of people in our community who worshiped this fellow, and I felt very uncomfortable about it, especially a lot of the rules that they put on it. Like, for instance, always wearing white. And I thought that was even before this, that wasn't something that you held, and I didn't hold. But it wasn't until after the whole Yogi Bhajan thing that I really felt comfortable in choosing what I wear, and I wear white because I want to.
Right. Because you want to.
There are many paths, one destination, and but it is. You think the Democrat and Republican thing is crazy now? Those who supported Yogi G, and those who didn't, because there was a time I felt like I didn't want to be around them. I really felt, how could you do this? It just took a little while, but listen, in the end, is that the practice, especially the meditation, is a big part of our lives, always. And to go without that, it was just too much. And it was separating the individual from the practice, because the practice is 5,000 years old. It didn't start with this yogi, and it certainly didn't end with this yogi. And it really is a prescription for life. In fact, right now is that I host I call it Mantras, Meditations, and Good Vibrations. And I use so many of the meditations that you taught us. I use the Satanama, I use that meditation, and Rama Das, all these different meditations, and they love it. No, they love it. It makes such a difference. Well, because and many of the people are older, and it's difficult for them to do yoga. So doing all the hand movements and the meditations, it really is.
Those
such
are
a
so
big,
beautiful, the moving meditations. What, Steve, you make such a good point. Like, I never resonated with Yogi Bhajan. And I remember in teacher training, when they put his videos on, that's when I would go to sleep, because we'd have to be there at 4 a.m. So we would do 4 to 6, and then we would have breakfast, and he'd put his videos on. That's when I would take a nap before class. Like, it's interesting. When you think about it, like you said, I never really vibed with him. I always thought the things he said were off-putting, but the practice is what I was drawn to. And then some of the other, Sikh gurus that are part of it. So it is interesting. But I love that your community loves it.
Yeah, I used to laugh, because some of the things, some of his practices, people may feel differently, but some of the things I thought were ridiculous. Some of the things, and I could imagine him hanging out doing bongs with his friends and saying, "Oh, and then I told them to do blah blah." But it's all a lot of good fun, and I really enjoyed the practice. But then COVID came, and it really, the videos are wonderful. It does keep you connected, but there is a great deficit without that live in-person practice also.
Yes.
And can you speak to that? How did the COVID, pandemic and just being in that environment and not being able to practice in the group setting, how did that manifest itself in your life? And how were you able to deal with that?
Well, for me, it was very different because right in the midst of that was when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I had to just completely drop everything and have my full-time job be, well, at first figuring out what pathway I was going to take, which was probably the hardest because so much of the journey in Western medicine, unfortunately, is based in and on fear and wanting to just, not have you listen to your body or your heart and all the fear tactics. And then, family. So like trying to drown all that out and find my way of what was going to be what I needed was really tough. So that became my full-time job. And then from there, it was then literally taking care of myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually 24/7. So but to like on the same topic though, some of the only things I could do were some of the Kundalini, like light Kundalini. So it was part of my beginning recovery. And again, it's like that's invaluable to me, and I had left it for a while for all the reasons we spoke of, but that was something that brought me some life in the midst of and light in the midst of some pretty dark days.
Can you speak to us about breath work and how you utilize that to help you heal from this terrible, terrible disease that you were inflicted with?
Yeah. So it's interesting because, as you both know, the Kundalini yoga and breath work is very moving oriented. You're using mudras, you're moving the body. It's very active very often. So that I guess we could call yogic breathing because there is a difference. And so that was good. It was part of my recovery. But then there was a part because I did choose uh, to get chemotherapy, even though everything I was so against it at first. And I don't need to get too much into that, but due to the aggressive nature of the diagnosis, that's not like other breast cancers. Even my integrative oncologists, my naturopaths, people that deal every day with my particular diagnosis, Chinese herbalist, you name it, they all looked at it and was like, we support you, whatever you choose. But the fast nature of how this grows, the holistic treatments are slow, and we don't have that kind of time. So it wasn't a decision that I ever made in fear because I don't operate that way. It was like, okay, well, now that I can choose this consciously, how do I get my team around it? And it became a real spiritual, it sounds so weird to say, but when I was going through chemo, I was so glad that it was COVID because nobody could visit me. My mom was upset, but I needed to be headphones, guided imagery, visualizing light, calling on my team. Like it was because you're there for like 4 or 5 hours. It was literally a spiritual experience. But after that, nobody tells you the aftermath. And then it's like, okay, there's no more of the physical toxic drugs treatments, but then the side effects, then the PTSD, then, okay, now what? Now I have to live. That was the hardest. And the toxic drugs that I was on, because it was such an aggressive nature, were so debilitating. I couldn't do the physical movements. I had frozen shoulders in both shoulders. They had to do something with the surgery. So like I couldn't move. I was like literally just laying there. And so Kundalini wasn't an option. I never wanted to just lay on the floor and do breath work. I knew that that was another form of breath work, but yeah, I was like, no, I want to move. I want to,
You can't exercise your way out of this one.
Right. And this was like, okay, like everything about my life leading up to that was an element of like doing, working, planning, coaching, and it was just like God said, okay, you need to just stop, which was very hard for me. But in retrospect now, within this 2 years, the biggest blessing. But because I was limited to only being able to lay there, there was this breast cancer organization called Unite for Her, which is so amazing. And they were offering a 6-week breathwork program. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll do this. And from one time of laying on my back and doing this 30, 40, 45-minute breath work with music with this particular teacher, one time it shifted so much. I felt like a little piece of myself again. I felt like it gave me hope that, some of the debilitating side effects that made my brain hurt. Oh yeah, there it is. Amazing organization. They have classes. They give you a care box of all certain treatments and just wonderful, wonderful women. And then they offer these classes, and it literally turned me one treatment, one breathwork experience shifted so much that, of course, I did the 6 weeks. Then I started to do it every day. And then I found the school that I just graduated from, or I am graduating from, called Alchemy of Breath. And I got a scholarship to their program because of my situation. And it's so much more than breathwork, the program, but it's tapping into trauma. I know so much about trauma now, and how what happens in the body with trauma and what to do with it. We learned all about what happens pre-birth in the womb during that period. And then the first years of our life, like, it was so involved to just help me overall. But yeah, it's life altering. Like, I just feel like everybody needs to do it, but I understand the resistance, because I remember, like, I don't want to lay on the floor and breathe. It doesn't sound like it's something you want to do, but when you experience it, it connects you to your soul in a way that nothing else has for me. It's like everything comes together.
Kathy uses breath work. In fact, the other day, she was being challenged by different things going on in her life. Probably me, but she was saying that she was working on the breath work, and she had suggested that I do some as well. Kathy, do you remember that?
Well, we took this hiatus from Kundalini Yoga for a while due to COVID and other things. And I just started picking it up again. I just felt I needed it because there was an absence of it. And I got this new love and appreciation of really the breath work in it, not as much the yoga. It's like I was feeling the energy moving.
Yep.
And Steve, due to the motorcycle accident, has a lot of pain in the back.
Right.
And when I was doing a healing session with him, I noticed his solar plexus chakra was a little weak, which is the back area.
Yeah.
So I was talking through breathing into the solar plexus, moving the energy around, and just being very conscious of the breath. And then when that's cleared, bringing it from the root up to the crown, then in the crown to the root, just balancing everything and then sending it out. And I've been doing that a lot lately myself. When for 2 years, I didn't even bother with it because there's just so much going on with COVID, with just everything we were going through. The challenges in this world is just insane. So I told Steve that we need to get back into the breath work. I even made him do some Kundalini morning sadhanas at 4
Morning sadhana.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
It's a different experience because once that was taken away from us for those 2 years, and then we did it on our own terms and under no umbrella of a guru this time, the energy really was emotional.
Yeah.
Like you could feel it moving. It was so beautiful. So we're going to have to incorporate that again because, as you know, the world is a different place post-COVID. I mean, it's more than just COVID, but just that there's so many challenges. And I feel bad for people that don't have these modalities in their toolbox to get through this. Because, I mean, think about in your situation, you were just hit with everything at once. COVID came, the Yogi Bhajan allegations, and in that world in which you were taught to, idolize this man, although you never did, and then the diagnosis. So think about Tina pre-COVID and Tina now, like Tina 2.0. What's the difference?
Oh my God. It's honestly such a huge difference. And yeah, I couldn't have even maybe said this 6 months ago, per se, because it was the darkest period of my life, which was long. You know, no one expects to have a year and a half recovery, but dark in that sometimes I could just look out the window and like the sun on my face, like God fill me up with light. Like, you know, it was, you know, that's how bad. So like in those moments, I let myself be in the humanness of it. And I had people that had gone through it before to help me, which is amazing. Like, in other words, I remember people saying cancer is a gift. And it was like, in my head, and then even not in my head, I would like curse them out. Like,
Do you
you
accept
don't,
returns?
you know, like you don't, yeah, like you, there is a time where you don't want to hear that. Like you're in the humanness of it. And I think there's an honor in that. Ironically, anyone listens that is in that period, like I am at the stage of it now where I'm like, wow, like I get it. But I think that there's an honoring, you know, in every step along the way. I realized how much I was playing roles, even outside of acting, my whole life, not realizing it. So much of even what I taught were concepts and not embodied. I spent so much of my time, my life outside my body, not knowing. It was because of trauma, but I didn't know. I was always dissociating. That's a nervous system thing. I never knew that. And what breathwork did, it brought me back into my body. And I realized too, a lot of the work I did before, whereas it's beautiful, there's a tendency to leave the body. And like, not that there's anything wrong with the mysticism of like, you know, sacred geometry and angels and all of that, but even that, like I shut all of that out. I went back to God, my heart, Yeshua, like Jesus, like, because I just needed simple. And I even questioned the angels, to be honest with you. And I didn't wanted nothing to do with them because I didn't know, are they really in the light? Because there's a lot of false light out there in teachers, like Yogi Bhajan, right? So coming back home to myself was like, this is what I was always seeking. And that's what breathwork gave me, my connection to God here, my connection to my heart and that little one that was traumatized and had to pretend. Like I finally was able to like meet her and love her and allow through the breath, the trauma energy to release. And just even a few weeks ago, I did for the first time connect with my angels and just say like, what happened? You know, like what was that? And I said, I felt abandoned. And it was so beautiful. They basically said that, first of all, the angels in the purest form is the energy of God, but they can become different streams of light. They're like, we became these streams of light for you appearing on the outside as your reflection because that's what you needed at the time. But already knowing what was going to happen, because we're the energy of God, we then only went inside. You thought we abandoned you, but we went inside to draw you in. Makes me emotional. To make you go in and breathe and rebirth the you that you've been running from. It's always been here. So it's like every breath you're breathing us. It isn't something outside. And that to me was like, so it makes sense that every breathwork session, I am becoming more whole. I'm aligning with that Christ consciousness, with that angelic energy. So yeah, so it's a very long-winded answer, sorry.
Beautiful.
You know, I'm so different because I'm embodied now here and fully like present in the now in a way that I didn't know how to be before. I had to go into the darkness and meet myself there to really find my light and be here now. And so I see the duality of the world, but the neutrality of the heart that's beyond all of it.
Amazing.
That's so beautiful. And very, very helpful in so many ways. So many people struggling with challenges, especially health challenges. Can you give us an example of breath work? When you mean breath work, is there a simple guide that you could offer somebody, like for dealing with a health crisis, or even something like tension? Can you give an example?
Yeah. So it's a great question, because there's so many breathing techniques, and that's what I'll give you an example of. But just to clarify, because I know that even I thought yogic breathing was the breath work that the kind I'm talking about is called conscious connected breath. The kind where you lay on your back. You can sit up, but it's more powerful if you lay on your back. You go for 20, 30, 40, even 60 minutes. It's a conscious connected breath through the mouth, where you're breathing into the belly, up into the heart, and then you're exhaling. So you're going, there's no pause or at the top or the bottom. It's just a continuous circular conscious connected breath. That's the breath that changed my life, that brought me back online, that I do almost every day. That being said, that's not for everyone. There are contraindications. I wouldn't give that to someone unless, I talked to them first and found out about their health and their body. But there are a ton of other breathing techniques that are also powerful for everyday things. So my favorite is very simple, and it's just called a heart coherence breath. You could even go on the Heart Math site, and they talk all about like the science behind it. Of course, I love the science, but I love the spiritual aspects on top of it. But our electromagnetic field of our heart is 5,000 or thousands of times greater than our brain. So when we even just place our hand on our heart and inhale a count of 5 and exhale a count of 5, and you can inhale nose, exhale mouth, you can inhale nose, exhale nose, whatever feels right. But just that inhale, and act or visualize as if your heart is what's doing the breathing. So it's like you're constantly inhaling. And if you can't do 5, you can work up to it. But even just something as simple as that, 3 times a day for 5 minutes, you are literally harmonizing the whole body. Because like you were saying before, Steve, the body already knows. It has an innate wisdom. It already knows how to heal. We just got to get out of the way. So when we concentrate on the heart and even just do that breath, we're activating that electromagnetic field to really let the body heal, and also open us up to more of that lightness, and instead of the heaviness.
Steve, imagine the synchronicity of the heart coherence breath. Where did we just learn that? In the villages here. We went to a metaphysical meeting, and the woman who runs the organization, this beautiful woman named Stephanie, taught us that very breath 2 nights ago.
I loved it.
And what did she say? 3 minutes, just 3 minutes of that breathing creates 6 hours of positivity and gratitude.
I could have done it for a couple hours. When she told us to stop,
You're done. Get up.
It's so simple. I do it when I'm driving. I do it if I'm even watching TV or something, and I remember, I just start to do it. That's a real simple one that a lot of people know, and there's so many others with holds, or, counting different things, using the body, breathing into the pelvis. Like, it's all really about staying in the body.
Wow. I love it.
It's magic.
Get involved, Steve. You're looking for answers for healing. This is it.
Well, it's beautiful. It has been a struggle for me. As I get older, dealing with some of the accident issues has been a challenge. But listen, I rely on the meditation, the Kundalini yoga, and of course, Kathy's company to help me along. Especially through the tough spots. Wrapping it up now. Was there anyone in your life that you relied upon during this time? I'm sure there are many people, but that helped you in the way that I rely on Kathy. Kathy relies on me. Is there anyone in your life that helped you through these difficult times?
Well, Billy, of course. I couldn't have gotten through any of it to this day without him. He was my sounding board, my shoulder to cry on.
And he's easy on the eyes. Sorry, Steve.
Oh, I love that picture of us. Yeah, so we went around in the early days in interviewing surgeons because, I'm not someone that's going to just listen to the first person that tells me what they're going to be doing with my health. And so we just spent full time like researching every kind of treatment, every kind of surgeon and doctor. And like, so there was that element of it, but then also, just having him there for when I was the sickest, to providing for us financially. Like it's, I have no words, how he stood by me, helping me with some of the hardest, most painful, choices to make.
That's the soul connection. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, we felt that when we met Billy for the first time, because you did those sound healings together at the studio when you would play the gongs and the bowls and the pyramid. And between the two of you, that energy was just palpable and beautiful. And I just couldn't get enough of that. Do you guys still do that? Like, what is in your repertoire now other than breath work?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because we just spoke yesterday about doing something on December 4th, doing a sound, some kind of angelic sound. We don't know exactly what, but using sound and meditation and breath, we'll just put it all together. I think that's what it is too. It's like giving some people some maybe taste of the breath work, but not too intimidating, but then using sound because of course, this is a time, whether it's the holidays or not, we're in a time where people need to relax and, not be carrying the heavy weight of the world. So we've been talking too about some things that we put on hold in the past of bringing back. We have our own healing system called Star of Life healing system, and we have different like codes and techniques. And so we're looking over and refining them to begin to offer that again. And yeah. And oh, look at that. Yeah. I will say my website's very outdated. It's the next thing on my list to really kind of.
You were a little busy, Tina.
What'd you say?
You were a little busy.
A little busy.
I have a good excuse, right?
Yeah, we'll let it slide.
Yeah, so some of the links go nowhere, but yeah, sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
No, that's just wonderful, Tina. Tina, we'd like to thank you so much for spending this time with us, and we'll include any any upcoming dates, any other opportunities for networking with you and sharing the beautiful.
Oh yeah, can I just share really quickly?
Yeah,
please. Because I just finished a series called "I Am the Love That I Seek," and it incorporates little breathing techniques, full breath ceremonies, but a lot of teaching tools that are just helpful to learn about the body as an instrument. Like it's, everything I do now gets birthed in a breathwork session, and then it's effortless. It's like a, oh, look, there it is. You're awesome. So I just finished the I Am the Love I Seek, and now this week we're going into I Am the Power I Seek, but it's all recorded. And so anyone that, may want to take it at a later time, it'll be up on an online platform. And I'm just so proud of it because it's unique to everything that has gotten me to this point, and bringing it to meet who's ever on the call live or through email on recordings. So thanks for sharing it. I'm not a big supporter, so
this is on tinaandbilly.com. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, that's wonderful. Well, it looks beautiful, and I'm sure it's a wonderful way of helping so many people and sharing the love and light and the healing energy. And so thank you so much for being on today. Kathy, would you like to say goodbye to Tina?
No, I don't. But she's always here. But please, I look forward to you getting back out in the community and building us up again, because all these people, they need you now more than ever. They need the practice, whether if you do sound healing or yoga or breath work, or incorporate it all together in your own unique, beautiful way. Because the best thing about your practices, and this is what I would brag about to everybody, is you would incorporate the visual with the educational and the spiritual. And it made such changes in the body.
Yeah.
Because when you put all of that together, you grow faster. than when you're just doing the physical. So that's what I've missed for so long, because I've taken the Zoom classes and I need you. So I can't wait for you to get back out there, and I'll be the first one center of the class.
It was the perfect timing to connect with you guys, because it's happening December and then next year. So yeah.
Wonderful. Tina, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Satnam and be well.
Namaste. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.